Jason Etheridge, welcome back to the Logic Speak podcast.
I got to admit, I'm a little nervous now with all these icebreaker questions that you've been telling me about.
We right before we hit record, I just looked at him and said, I've got an icebreaker question for you.
Yes.
And he said, oh, darn.
And then anxiety went.
All right, so I'm going to get into it. It's a fun one, and I want to answer it. If you could have one celebrity over for dinner, who would it be and why?
One?
Yep, just one.
The pantheon of amazing celebrities that I would love to have dinner with.
I know. Gosh, maybe one day we'll do an episode on what pantheon means. I'd love to learn that.
I had one, and then it's lost. Morgan Freeman for the quality of the voice.
Sure.
Right?
I didn't say to tuck you into bed. I
That's
said
fair.
Someone for dinner.
There's so many. Honestly, this is going to sound crazy, but I'll explain. If I really am answering honestly.
Yep.
Hugh Grant.
Really?
Yeah. I love British comedy.
Yep.
I love probably almost every movie that Hugh Grant's ever been in.
Yeah.
And if you ever watch his interviews, he just seems like he doesn't care, and he will just answer any question.
Yep.
Self-deprecating, funny. Like, I think it would be hilarious.
A good time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's hear it.
I think so. I've kind of been on this comedy kick where I like the comedians that have podcasts and stuff.
Sure. If you say Joe Rogan.
No, honestly, I would love to hang out with Joe Rogan. I think we would hit it off, and we kind of nerd out about the same things, same conspiracies.
Whatever, brain gum or whatever it is that he talks about all the time.
Yeah, alpha brain. But honestly, one of the funniest people alive, in my opinion, is Theo Von.
Yeah.
And I think we would just crack up. Like, there are times where he has people on and he'll go on someone else's show and he'll say something, and even the show host won't even laugh. Like, like sometimes the jokes just go over people's head, and he is so funny. Like the stuff that just slides under the radar. Oh my gosh.
You can never tell what's going to come out of his mouth. That's for sure.
Yeah. And we're not really endorsing, I love him. So proceed with caution.
Hugh Grant and Theo Von, pretty much at the edges of comedy.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. I like, though, that we both would pick someone
funny.
Yeah.
For sure. I did think about Nate Bargatze for
that'd be fun.
A hot second. He'd be funny.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was listening to something the other day, and it was Theo Von, and he was talking about how he has friends that are even funnier than him that never went on to do comedy. And I've just got one of them is actually starting to do comedy, like local stuff, little open mic things. Yeah. And he's like one of the top funniest people that I grew up with. And so I'm so glad that he's out there doing it. But like, I was like, I wonder if I'm that person for him where he's like, one of my really funny friends doesn't do comedy. I don't know. I think I'm kind of funny sometimes.
Yeah. I think you're funny.
Well, thanks for coming back on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk to you today as we just continue in season 2, as we continue with our focus of trying to provide more value to people, trying to live our mission through this podcast, share our hearts, just be honest, be open. And today I want to talk about something right in that vein, which is radical candor.
One of my favorite things to talk about.
It is something that I read the book before coming to Logic Speak, but the language around it and the idea of it is so ingrained in our culture here. So much so that earlier today I got to practice radical candor. And so, we're not going to talk directly about that. We're going to talk about the topic and why it's so important for a leader. And so first and foremost, for anybody that's listening that might not be super familiar with this great book, I'd highly recommend Kim Scott's book, Radical Candor. We're not paid to advertise, but
boy, we should be.
If you want to throw us a bone, Kim. No, we'd highly recommend picking up the book. But Jason, just in your own words, can you just explain to the audience what is Radical Candor?
And to start, this book is, I kind of keep a running list of books that have impacted the trajectory of Logic Speak, and this one's right up there.
You've mentioned that before. There's a couple.
That is true. And so, the idea behind Radical Candor and really kind of what speaks to me most is this, a lot of times as leaders, we don't say what needs to be said.
Sure.
Because if you have the wound that I have from childhood, you want people to like you.
Yep.
And if you challenge people, if you hold them accountable, right, then they're going to be upset with you because you are calling them out on the carpet and they won't like you.
Yep.
And so I spent too many years at Logic Speak wanting people to like me and not practicing radical candor enough to challenge people directly.
It's interesting because it is so productive and helpful for a business, for relationships within the business, but it feels counterintuitive.
It does.
At least if you're bent the same way we are, which I'm naturally, or maybe I have the same childhood wound. The way you phrased that, I was like, I am a people pleaser. I want people to like me. And sometimes in certain settings where I feel very safe and I trust the person I'm talking to, I can be really bold and honest. Like, I don't think there's anything that I would be afraid to tell you because we have a level of trust.
Sure.
But being able to be radically candid to an entire team or an entire organization, that can be scary.
Yeah. For sure. Especially when you're practicing or when you're kind of starting to implement this concept, it can be very scary because you're not used to it, and it does feel like stepping out there. So it's important.
One of the main things from the book, kind of the concept, is showing radical candor means that you can care personally for someone and challenge directly.
Yep. Yeah. The concept of the book is that there's 4 quadrants, right? The vertical axis is that you care deeply about the people that you work with, and certainly as a leader, the people that follow you. And then the horizontal axis is to challenge directly.
Yep.
And to kind of let people in on it, the quadrant that I found myself in, and certainly that we're talking about, that is the most common among leaders and businesses, is what's called ruinous empathy.
Yep.
That we care deeply, but we are afraid to, or we don't challenge people directly. And so we are, and what I took from that is that we are ruining people.
Yeah.
Not literally, but ruining, the relationships, ruining, our performance, ruining, kind of what we're here to do by not challenging people. And so it actually has the counter effect that you would think that it would have.
Yeah. Kind of the idea is that when you just have one and not the other, there can be a negative effect.
Yep.
So being just ruthlessly honest without any care can actually do damage to a relationship and to an organization. And then if you care too much and you're not always upfront and honest, it can cause a lot of dysfunction.
Yep.
Which I think I kind of lean more into that quadrant as well.
Because then as an organization, you continue to lament that you're not achieving the performance that you want to achieve, but you're not willing to do what it takes to hold people accountable to actually accomplishing those results. And to also add, a lot of people, when they first hear this concept or when they first connect with this idea, they interpret it as a license to I'm just being candid. I'm just to basically bowl over people with their words and say whatever is on their mind. And that is a misapplication of this concept. That is not what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a license to kill people with your brutal honesty. It really is
just being honest.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's more of a mindset to put yourself in. Okay, I know I need to have a hard conversation. I can still show that I care deeply about our working relationship, about the success of our company. But at the same time, I have to be honest with you about reality of things, or, whatever it might be. And truly, like, the deepest and best relationships have to have that personally and professionally.
Yep. This is one of those concepts that I found it by way of business, but it has impacted my whole life.
Yeah.
Because, I think we all kind of can admit that we don't just show up a certain way in one of our environments or one of our areas of life. Most of our personality will permeate everywhere we are. And so it's really helped with interpersonal or with personal relationships as well.
Yeah.
Kind of applying this concept and not just wanting people to like me, but also being willing to show up in an authentic way, or to show up for myself, or, to kind of be truthful.
Is the last 10% idea part of this book, or am I
that is a
giving credit to someone else?
Yeah, it's
kind of similar.
It is.
The idea that most of the times when people communicate, they default to about 90% of the information gets shared, but they'll reserve 10%, and that's just out of self-preservation, that's out of fear of conflict, whatever it might be. But getting into this comfortable space, or this ability to break into something that's uncomfortable, to say, hey, can I share the last 10%?
Right.
Because it's just there's a little bit more at stake here. There's a little more detail that you deserve to know. And when shared respectfully and shared candidly, it can actually be a relationship builder.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think at the heart of radical candor is really this idea that we can be authentic, that we can really be authentic with each other, in relationships at work, because authenticity requires both. I have to care about you, and I also have to say the thing.
Yeah.
And so it's a learned behavior, that's for sure.
Yeah. So why do leaders just typically in general avoid radical candor? What's the fear behind it?
I think it goes back to that ruinous empathy. I think the fear is that people won't like us, and ultimately, if we boil that down, people will leave, right? And I don't just mean leave the company, because different leaders show up in various environments.
Sure.
But essentially, I will lose my followers, whatever that looks like. They will no longer want to follow me. They will no longer want to be in my sphere, right? If I'm honest.
And what would you say is the cost of that? Like, what's at stake for a business owner if they find themselves feeling that way?
The cost is performance. Accomplishing your goals. Ultimately achieving what it is that you set out to achieve as an organization that honestly both sides really want to achieve. And so, kind of not holding a team member or team members accountable actually has two effects. One, you don't get the results out of the person that you're not candid with. And also everyone else on the team sees how you interact, and that person isn't being held accountable. And it actually has a negative spiral for the whole team, because if they're not accountable, then why do I have to be accountable? So your high performers end up leaving because of the dissatisfaction of being on that team.
Yep. So for someone in your role as a business owner and a leader, a visionary, a CEO, you wear a lot of hats still within our company. Where do you see radical candor show up most for you on a day-to-day that maybe someone else would be able to have a little connection with?
One of the other concepts that we've learned along the way is this idea of incremental feedback, right?
Oh yeah, very good.
We end up saving feedback for a quarterly or an annual review or something, and now you might be 9 months away from what happened, the situation, from the coaching, and incremental feedback is the concept that early and often we need to be having incremental feedback with each other, so that it doesn't wait that long and we have a chance of changing the trajectory or changing the course.
Yeah.
Giving incremental feedback and asking for incremental feedback requires radical candor at its very core.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
One of the stories from the book is really about kind of a speech that Kim gave, that she was asked to give by her boss, and literally walking off the stage back down the hall after the speech was when she received the incremental feedback from her boss about how she presented. Now, obviously, like you and I both are like, that's like, whew. But they had the relational capital, they had the relationship, and then this concept of radical candor done well. And she will say in the book, like, that had a bigger impact on her than probably anything else, because she received that feedback and she never showed up that way again. For a presentation, because of how impactful that was and how close it was to the event.
The humility to be able to receive it like that is huge. I mean, it requires it to receive it. It requires it to give it and give it well.
Right.
I was thinking maybe it's because of the culture here, but Jason and I have this thing that when we get off of a call that we're on together and it's customer facing, it's always a race to see who will call the other person for, if we're not in the same room.
Sure.
Who will call the other person first? And the first thing we say is,
"So what'd you think?"
So what'd you think? How'd it go? And really even though it's kind of become a joke,
right?
And I will often be hovering over the call Jason directly button as we're hanging up with someone just to get to you first. But it's because of that culture that it makes it easier for us to enter into those moments where you could say, hey, you know what? I noticed you said this. Maybe tweak that. Say it this way instead next time. And it's like, wow, awesome. That's really good feedback.
And while it's fresh, right? While it's so, in kind of the front of the brain, it's such a great time.
Yeah.
To have that kind of conversation.
Yeah. I think that's great. So when a leader finally realizes, okay, I'm avoiding these type of situations, I'm avoiding this conflict, what kind of experience can they have once they start to overcome that? What is the alleviation that comes with practicing radical candor for you?
What I've experienced as I've learned to do this better is that the organization literally shifts from kind of worrying about and talking about and experiencing a lack of performance and things that we just can't overcome, and why can't we just get past this? And, why the dysfunction of broken relationships, to addressing challenges more quickly, course correcting more quickly, and actually experiencing greater results because now we've gotten past that and we've been able to get over that hump and move forward.
Yeah.
So it really is. It doesn't feel like it is a direct tie to performance of a whole organization, but absolutely it is tied to them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. So internally, we're talking a lot about from the position of a leader and what the internal relationships can look like with your team or your organization. But let's talk about client facing.
Sure.
Because to be a really good partner, to show up well as a strategic advantage to another company that we're serving, that also requires radical candor.
Yep.
It can't, even in the sales cycle, it can't just be lip service and empty promises. I have to clearly communicate what we can do, and if there's a misalignment in expectations, call them out and be honest with people. And so just from your experience in the years of being in a professional services space, what does radical candor look like toward clients?
Yeah. I mean, you said it starts in the sales process.
Yeah.
Because we both have been in sales for a good little bit.
Yeah.
And there is a tendency to want to promise anything to get the deal.
Sure.
And we all know, we can all agree that that's not a good idea. But I think the personality of a company or of an organization shows right at the very beginning in the sales cycle. So being willing as a salesperson to really be honest and be candid about who we are.
Wow.
And what we can accomplish, and helping the prospective client to know, what that feels like and what we can do.
Yeah.
Really sets the stage for the whole relationship.
Yeah.
And you really want, from a customer experience perspective, for that to carry through all the way to the organization, so that 6 months down the road, when we have that tough conversation about something that's needed, about an adjustment or a shift in technology, or maybe a security issue that is impending, or some sort of danger, that we have that relational capital, and that process goes so much better because we've started all the way back in the sales cycle at being candid with each other.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is asking or expecting the client, requesting that the client be candid with you. Give us incremental feedback. Let us know as quickly as possible when we're missing the mark. I tell clients all the time that when you experience something at LogicSpeak that you didn't expect, you call me anytime.
Yeah.
I may not be able to answer if it's 2 a.m., something like that, but every client has my cell phone if they want it, right? It's in my signature.
Yep.
And if their expectations don't align with what their experiences are, I want us to hit that head on.
Yep.
With candor.
Yes.
To make sure that we can get back on the right road.
Yeah, because we're not going to be perfect.
No.
And we want to do our best. And if we're missing something, again, smaller course corrections and small incremental changes over longer periods of time are going to have a better impact anyways, versus waiting till the quarterly business review or the annual contract discussion.
Or heaven forbid, waiting until you've chosen someone else.
Sure.
And 6 months ago, if we could have had the tough conversation, we could have known to fix it.
Yep.
and we would still be in a partnership.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's huge. I think of a couple things. I think of the concept of Dr. Tim O'More calls it pocket change. That like you have to build some pocket change in a relationship, and it's really just trust, where you make investments into that relationship, so that when the time comes to be radically candid, there's a level of trust that's built.
Right.
I think about building trust with someone in the sales cycle, but also just building trust in the organization and with different teammates and different team members. Not just incremental feedback that's constructive, but also the positive stuff, like not forgetting of how powerful it is to give positive incremental feedback, for people to celebrate wins and to be recognized for accomplishments, so that when the time comes to also give the harder feedback, there's already been some relational capital built. Yeah. You've made deposits into that.
Yep.
There's pocket change there. You can afford to do that in the relationship. So I guess to wrap up, my curiosity for you is, how do you start as a person first, and then also as a leader or business owner?
Yeah, great question. And Kim addresses this in her book, and it was one of those things you're like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Leaders oftentimes, again, when they connect with this material, their thought is, okay, I'm going to start being radically candid with my team.
Yeah.
Right. And then you just start, this is what you need to do, and this is what you need to do. But honestly, to your point, to build that relational capital, to start to make deposits of the pocket change, it's actually the opposite way. As a leader, you have to ask and empower your team to be radically candid with you first.
Wow.
So you don't start delivering radical candor. You start by asking for it.
Ooh.
And then you shut your mouth.
Yep.
And don't, like we always have our rebuttals, but if only you knew this, and if only that, we kind of keep our minds going with all that. But the best approach is to ask for radical candor and thank them for giving it to you. That's it.
Yep.
And then, some of it's going to be valid, some of it's not going to be valid, but the trust exercise of them giving you greater amounts of radical candor and not facing retribution, not being punished for it, not being, but you don't understand, but you didn't know, and all those things.
Yeah.
Over time, you will start to build up that relational capital, which then allows you as a leader to be able to deliver that radical candor, and it will be received because you've gotten it so much from your employees.
And going back to what you said, some of it will be valid, some of it won't be. The won't be is not because it's any less real of a perspective.
Sure.
It's because there's information that's lacking. And as a leader, you can't always know where the information gaps are. And it's not always healthy for you to just dump everything out for the entire organization to live and breathe.
Right. It's just a perspective.
It's just a perspective.
That's right.
Yep. And so hearing someone's perspective can, at the very least, make you go, that's how I'm being perceived, even if it's not true about you.
Right. Right. So and what led that person to believe?
Yes. Yeah. And oftentimes that can be a game changer.
Yeah.
I think of the times that I didn't realize how I was being perceived, and how sometimes, because of being an extrovert and excited all the time, and how sometimes, especially for an extreme introvert, like that can feel like sandpaper, or make people kind of tense up, because it's like, well, what is that I'm going to say or do?
Yeah.
And kind of realizing how people are wired, and especially the people I work with, how they operate and how they're wired, and their preference on extroversion versus introversion, and some of the things we've done has just helped me to be aware of how I'm being perceived and how I might be perceived, so that I can approach them easier.
One of the ways to view that I love is the question, what's it like to be on the other side of me? I just love that question. There's such a visual there.
Where did you hear that question for the first time? Was that a John Ott thing?
No, I think it was an Andy Stanley thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. On Andy Stanley's leadership podcast.
Yeah.
But
I know you've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
On our show.
It's a great question to ask. And I think asking for radical candor is a good way to answer that question.
Yep.
But it's only after you build the relational equity, the pocket change, that you're really able to both ways.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into detail, but I'm reminded of, I've got a really good friend of mine. We've been in each other's weddings, just a great human being. And we had a very radically candid moment a couple months back, and it may have gotten a little emotional, and the tendency or the thing that I was fighting was getting offended because of how it was being communicated and what we were talking about and the context of everything. But because of the relationship and because of the relational capital, there was this ability for both of us to kind of suck it up.
Yeah.
And hey, you're one of my best friends in my entire life and have seen me through so much. If you're this passionate about it, I'm going to try to hear the truth of what you're saying, even if I don't like the way you're saying it.
Yeah.
And he did the same. And it was such a good moment. And what's crazy is not 24 hours later, I was met with a real world scenario that had to do with that same thing. And all I could think about was the conversation we had the night before. And I called him and I was like, hey, dude, I know this is a quick turnaround for me, but I need to say thank you and apologize. And so it was just really neat to kind of have that personal experience. And I think anybody sitting here has probably had bad and good experiences with this. And gosh, it's so worth it to pursue the good radical candor. When done right, it can be so transformational.
And I think one of the things we just talked about a second ago, but I want to kind of double click on is the gratitude for someone being radically candid, because like you said this morning, you told me earlier, you were so nervous to do it, but you knew it had to be done.
Yep.
And so it just takes so much, even for us extroverts, to say what needs to be said. And so when somebody steps out, that shows vulnerability.
Yep.
It shows authenticity. It shows trust that you as a leader are going to receive it well. And the only good response is gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. We hope you're encouraged. Seriously, pick up a copy of Radical Candor, either digitally or the actual physical copy. It's one of those transformational books that's woven into the culture here at Logic Speak. We hope it has a positive impact on you. Jason, this has been a fun conversation. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, man. So we'll be back soon with another episode of the Logic Speak podcast. We hope you're enjoying it. Tune in for the next one, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you, Jason.
See ya.